What's up?
What's up, dude? How are you?
Good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm fired up. Like I just tried a new breath work. Actually, one that your brother shared through Twitter. Holy shit! Like I am fired up. It's,
Oh,
short inhales, short exhales through the mouth. Um, I felt like I was traveling inside of my head, and as I got to like the next level, I was boiling more, and my ears started to like get hot. I came back and I was like, "Holy shit, I'm ready for this." I feel fantastic, dude.
epic. Wait, how many breaths did you do?
I did 50.
Okay.
Yes, very short, but just as a quick pre podcast.
Good. Pump it up.
How are you doing, Jack?
Good, brother. Just took a nap, actually.
Mm-hmm. Love it, dude.
Oh,
Okay, so let's get right into it, man.
all right.
Um, Let me start with this. Are you still lost in this world? It's a really interesting video.
Mm,
I feel like it was kind of like a moment in time where you became aware that you needed to flip something, right?
100%.
Maybe. Yeah. So what's happened since?
A lot, dude. Um, I don't feel lost anymore. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of stuff has changed since then, obviously. I mean, that was like 2021 or so.
Mm-hmm.
That was right before I left school. And after I left school, everything felt way more aligned. But
Mm-hmm.
in that specific moment, uh, it was disharmonious. Let's just say it was sort of a dark night of the soul, uh,
Mm-hmm.
where I could not go back to school, but I hadn't committed to leaving yet,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's just in this purgatory state of indecision. And after I decided to leave, things actually started working a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, but so yeah. In conclusion, I wouldn't say I'm lost anymore.
Love it. Why do you think started? Well, first of all, why'd you leave school?
Um, a few reasons. One was the political climate. The political climate at the time was just inhospitable. This was during COVID, and I didn't originally even want to go to college. I'm glad I went for like a couple years, but it just got to a point where it was such a joke,
Mm.
and I realized that I would just be wasting time by staying. And so, yeah, that and the COVID policies that my school enacted were just kind of retarded in my mind. Like it just got to a point where it was like you're basically um you're basically just like laughing in our faces. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is they think we're just, I don't know, a lot dumber than we are or something. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, that was the main reason, was like COVID. Um, but then also I wasn't really sold on the whole thing to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, those are the main two reasons I got.
Yeah, I think I can resonate a little bit. I dropped out of high school, and it was kind of the same reasoning. I mean, after COVID, but for just a couple months straight, I was like, "What is this NPC bullshit? Like, I can't breathe."
Yeah,
Um, so why do you think it was from that point that things started to get better, and how did things start to get better?
really interesting ways. But I think something interesting happened in the way that I approached life after that moment, because I basically was taking my power back, and I was saying like, no, I'm not going to just like let society decide for me what my life is going to be. I'm going to like consciously do what I think is right and do what excites me, not what I think society thinks or not do what I think, society is telling me to do. Um, and something really fascinating happens when you take power and control back over your life. Things just start to like work for you in a way. Like you become like aligned almost. And then when you're putting out this sort of aligned energy,
Mm-hmm.
the like reality will reflect that back to you.
Okay.
And so things just started working in really interesting ways, and um, life just started flowing. Honestly, a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But
I love that. I love that you're doing really good right now. Yeah,
thanks. Yeah,
I
I'm
love it.
very excited right now. So
Fuck yeah. So let's talk about right now. Satva. Did I say that correctly?
yeah, you
Right.
got
What are you doing right now with Satva? What is this project?
yeah. It's basically an AI powered visualization tool.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, you put in your goals, like where you kind of want to end up, describe like your dream life scenario essentially. And we essentially use AI to write a full story for you and generate images to go along
Mm.
with it. That essentially places you within your ideal sort of reality so that you can visualize exactly what it will be like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's pretty profound sometimes. It definitely tugs on the heartstrings. A lot of people say they cry while doing it, or they like got choked up, or like they're
Mm-hmm.
emotionally touched by it, which is fascinating because it's being literally produced by an an
Yeah.
inanimate computer, but it's evoking such powerful emotion. And so yeah, that's basically the idea is like put you in this state of inspiration and balance so that then you can go into the world and do what you need to do to get where you need to go and have like an actual vision for your life instead of just sort of blowing with the wind.
I love that. Why does this project exist? Why did the idea come in for like in the first place?
Yeah, so the story behind it is my brother Nick went to this AI conference
Mm-hmm.
and they had them do this exercise there, which is sort of like the foundation of um, the prompt that Satva uses now. Um, and I tried it and I was like, wow, this is really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I want this in a newsletter like every week. Um, and so I was like, I could build that. And so I just started building it. And then I really wanted to, I'd done a few startups before this point, and I really wanted to just launch it super lean and get a customer before before I spent like a ton of time building it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the last startup I built basically spent like 6 months building it and then launched it, and no one really wanted it. So I was like, okay, we need to do this differently this time. So I launched like a super basic version, and got a couple of customers, and I was like, okay, sweet, people are
Mm-hmm.
willing to pay for this. And so it's just been a really fun journey since then, building it out, getting more customers, building like a software business,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really exciting, man. I've been having such a great time building it.
I love it. Yeah, I've seen you on the timeline. I'm excited for it as well. I haven't tried it yet, and I think I need to.
You got to try
Um,
it, bro. You would really like it.
100% I will after this. I've seen it. I've seen the comments on the project on like the message, like you said, that they receive the tear up. Um, I want some of that.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
A little
So,
hard.
so what's the goal? What do you want to create with this? Like, what's next?
My big vision is essentially create like a much more beautiful world. Um, essentially, like Imagine if everyone on planet Earth was visualizing a more harmonious, balanced, inspiring world.
Mm.
There there is no other outcome except for that. Like if everyone is visualizing that world, it will literally fall out of the ether and become real.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, just like everything else in the world, Steve Jobs said this was just a thought in someone's mind. If we can essentially inject these beautiful, loving, balancing thoughts into people's brains at scale and put them in this state of, I mean, Satva, that's what it means. It's an inspired, balanced state of mind. The world will become beautiful. So that's sort of the grand vision, I guess. That's like the end goal.
I love it. In talking about visions and these prompts, what is the vision that you are manifesting or trying to build towards to in life in general?
Life in general, yeah. Um, that's what's actually great about it is that it helps you refine this because I've
Mhm.
gone through like a couple iterations. Um, and right now, uh, my vision is essentially to like, have a relationship, obviously, with like a significant other, live close to my parents, close to nature, and then build this tool that's going to help other people achieve their dreams as well. Um, and I'm using the tool
Mhm.
to manifest
Of
myself
course.
building the tool,
I love that.
which is kind of meta, but it's funny.
Mhm. Where does the name come from? Satva.
It comes from Sanskrit, actually. So in Hindu philosophy, they essentially lay out like three main qualities of mind. Um, one is Sattva, obviously, and then there is Rajas, and then Tamas. And according to the Hindus, everything in this world is comprised of these three qualities. And so basically, um, you have Tamas, which is this state of apathy, almost like there's no inertia. It's kind of like ice, or imagine like a glacier. Um, and it manifests through essentially like laziness or um, gluttony or like lack of energy. And then you have rajas, which is sort of like the opposite of that. It's essentially a really fast or flowing like state of mind. It's like imagine like a river.
Mhm.
So if Tamas is ice, Rajas is a flowing, babbling brook that's always moving.
Mhm.
But Sattva is like steam or like mist.
Hmm.
It's sort of this balanced, expansive state.
I love that. Why'd you pick that name?
Um, I just had like a intuition one night that it'd be a good name for it.
Mhm.
Originally, it was called Inner Compass,
Mhm.
which I liked.
But what happened?
I liked honestly.
Mhm.
What did you say?
What happened? Like,
Oh,
why'd you change it?
um, I thought Sattva was a better name, better
Mhm.
brand value, shorter,
Mhm.
and although people don't know what it means initially, it actually has a much deeper meaning. Um, and it was like a bit simpler than Inner Compass. Inner Compass is a little long and hard to say.
Mhm.
I just end up saying I see all the time.
Mhm.
But it's funny because I thought like rebranding it would be super easy, but it was
Mhm.
like it took a long time to actually like
The
rebrand.
website and everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I was sort of just like 50-50 on the Inner Compass. as the name, even though I thought it was like pretty good and representative of what it is. Um, yeah, I think Satva is just better.
How are you currently moving this project? Like, how are you marketing Satva? Is it Satva or
Satva,
Satva?
Satva.
Satva.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
I
Sorry.
know sometimes like, is it a better name? Everyone has trouble pronouncing it, but
Yeah.
it's whatever. It's so yeah. In terms of marketing, right now I have been really focusing on like Reddit and going into like communities and essentially being like helpful, but also like being like, hey, by the way, I've been using this tool called Satva to do this. It's like way better. And that's been working pretty well. But honestly, I have not been too focused on the marketing front. Um, I've mostly just been rebuilding a lot of the funnel in terms of like the user experience from going from like when they land on the landing page to actually like when they pay. Um, and that part's almost done. So when that's done, it's like time to crack some new marketing channels for sure.
Mm-hmm. Love that. I want to change topic a little bit. I want to talk about Bitcoin. I know you're huge into that. Do you still have your mining rigs?
Um, yes, but they're inoperable right now. I left them actually in Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
or I moved here to Austin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have the space for them here.
Mm-hmm.
So
All the energy as well.
yeah, I live in this like apartment. But so yeah, I still have them, but they're not currently hashing.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunate.
What's your story with Bitcoin?
Um, so I first got into Bitcoin in this was probably late 2020 when NFTs were going crazy. Um, and I saw NFTs because I was in film school at the time, and I was like, wow, this is a really interesting new model for monetization for artists.
Mm-hmm.
I'll turn my films into NFTs and I'll sell them as NFTs. And so I just started researching crypto. And then I found this series on YouTube called Hidden Secrets of Money by this guy named Mike Maloney.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically details the Federal Reserve and how money is created
Mm-hmm.
in this country. And I remembered doing a civics presentation senior year in the Federal Reserve. Like I had this memory that I actually researched this and did a presentation on the Ponzi that is the Federal Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
And then I basically remembered through this video series called Hidden Secrets of Money. And I was like, wow, this is fascinating. And then they basically give you like a history of money over time and why the Roman Empire started clipping coins and like inflating their currency supply and how they that was like a contributing factor to their collapse. And then so I just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper and researching more and more about it.
Mm-hmm.
I read this book called The Bitcoin Standard,
Mm-hmm.
which is like one of the seminal texts on Bitcoin. And that moment really was pretty pivotal, I would say, in my life. Um, and that was, yeah, I think fall 2021. So, so yeah, I just kept learning and learning and learning. Went to some conferences, and then moved to Austin. And there's a great Bitcoin scene here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I worked in the industry for a while at a Bitcoin startup for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they like went under, kind of. So it was like um, they like ran out of cash. So I
Mm-hmm.
got laid off, and
Mm-hmm.
then I've been essentially freelancing like for Bitcoin companies, doing marketing, and then building Satva. So that's basically the Bitcoin's short story.
Beautiful. Why was reading the Bitcoin standard a pivotal moment for you? What you see in Bitcoin?
basically there's this concept in economics called stock to flow, which is essentially like a measure of the market cap of an asset versus the amount of new supply being created. So like gold, for example, I think it has like a $10 trillion market cap, and they're continually mining more gold each year. So like, 2.5% more gold comes onto the market each year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty good stock to flow ratio because it's really hard to mine gold, which makes it valuable because it's rare. And so essentially, the conclusion is that like the harder something is to make, of course, it has to have other properties, but typically it's a better form of money. So, like for example, Bitcoin stock to flow at this coming halving is going to be higher than gold's for the first time, because the way Bitcoin works is every 4 years, the amount of new supply gets cut in half, like programmatically. So essentially, you have this exponential decay of the amount of Bitcoin that's coming onto the market, which means you have absolute scarcity, which humanity has literally never seen before. On top of that, like it has many other properties that make it really good money, like the best money that humanity has ever seen. But the bigger picture is that when people have time because they can save their money, they can do more interesting things. Like the Wright brothers, for example, totally self-funded during like the Gilded Age or whatever. They had enough time because they had savings, because we were on the gold standard essentially. That they could invent the plane. But yeah, that's the bigger picture, is like give people, because people, when the monetary supply is inflating, right, every year, you essentially have to work harder and harder and harder for less, which means you have less time to do what you actually want. And I think it leads to a lot of despair, like unnecessary despair. Had like good money that actually allowed for prices to decrease. Like imagine if your rent got cheaper over time instead of more expensive, or food just continually got cheaper every single year. That's essentially what life would look like on a Bitcoin standard, which means you'd basically just have to work less. You get less for more, which is the whole point of technology anyways. We just haven't been able to reap the benefits of that because we've been inflating the money supply faster than the rate of technology has been deflating.
Yeah, I used to be really big into crypto as well. I was mining Ethereum at a rig until
Nice.
I don't remember what happened, but I think you can't mine Ethereum anymore, right?
Yeah, they switched from proof of work to proof of stake.
Right. So till then, we were mining Ethereum. We had a huge mining rig. It wasn't so expensive to mine.
Nice.
Electricity was pretty cool. I was obsessed. Like,
Yeah, it's
I
cool.
loved the whole concept.
It's a really fascinating new technology. Ethereum's kind of lame though, because they're based now that they're proof of stake. It's like you just reinvented the fiat system, so it's like kind of pointless. But Bitcoin, since it's proof of work, and you actually have to expend energy to make more of it, you could basically separate money from seigniorage or money from state. Like,
And we come to the same point from Bitcoin where you have complete control and power over your money, right?
yes.
It's this decentralization. It's your independent power, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
100%. Yeah, that was a big draw too. Is like, I don't want anyone to be able to fuck with my money. Like, why should some dude in a bank in New York able to steal from me? literally just steal from me through inflation. Like no one gets to vote on the inflation rate,
Mhm.
how much money they print this year.
Can I
So, like,
pay in Bitcoin with Satva?
not yet, no.
Like, do you
Not
wanna work with
yet,
that?
not yet. Subscriptions are a little tough to do with Bitcoin because it's all push payments.
Mhm.
Don't necessarily have pull payments
Oh,
like a
right.
credit card.
Mhm.
Um, but that will get solved somewhere down the line.
Shit, maybe you come up with, some type of, like, subscription for Bitcoin.
I've thought about this idea.
Mhm.
It's just hard to actually do in
Mhm.
practice. You essentially would have to like custody people's money, and then
Mm.
because the whole point is like it's self custody, really.
Mhm.
But it will be a thing for sure. I mean, there's a couple companies that like do Bitcoin payments really, really well,
Mhm.
and they have really good APIs for developers and stuff. But the subscription thing is a little tougher. I
Mhm.
mean, it would just be like a one time. You probably have to do like a one time. Like you could do a yearly
Mhm.
pretty easily, but you'd have to like remind them like, hey, your yearly thing.
Yeah.
You gotta pay us again if you want to use this. But it makes people more honest too, because there's a lot of subscription services that it's like you subscribe and it's like it just disappears into the ether. You don't know how to
Mhm.
calculate
There
it.
are no 7 free days.
Yeah, and then they're just sucking you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Uh, so so yeah, that's something that Bitcoin needs, but it will get solved somewhere down the line. I think
Mhm.
you can maybe do it with like covenants or something, but that's like super technical. I don't actually know.
Yeah, I love it. And you mentioned um your video making career. You posted a lot of Bitcoin on your channel. Your videos are so interesting. Like I was really hooked. I was really entertained from
Really?
both channels. Yes. The way you kind of repeat these same um frames, the way you cut the noises and music. I was so intrigued. So I'm curious to know, like, what's the story of of that career, and are you still creating videos?
Yeah. I love making videos.
Hmm.
It's,
Yeah, I can see that, man. You can really, really see that in the way it's created.
yeah, yeah.
Shit, I was like, wow, what a trip. Yeah.
It's definitely one of my favorite art forms for sure.
Hmm.
That's why I'm like so excited by the recent like AI advances because it's
Mm.
so easy to make videos, like really good videos too.
Hmm.
Like we basically are democratizing the entire Hollywood studio.
Yeah.
You basically one person is going to be able to make an entire feature. Um,
Don't you think that's a little creepy though? Not creepy, but fuck. You know, and like,
yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely new, and um, but think about it, like anime, for example, any animated
Mhm.
movie is like it's computers, it's not people.
Right.
I mean, you have the voiceovers that are people, but you could still do that just with AI images. But I think we're going to get to a point where the voiceovers will be so good that you won't be able to tell. And so, does it? This is the thing. Like, if it makes you feel something, does it matter? Does it matter if it's a person or not? No.
Mm.
Like, it's still a person coming up with this idea. You know. Um, but yeah, the I mean, I basically started making videos when I was like 12 maybe.
Mhm.
Um, surfing edits, skiing edits, uh, and I just really loved like editing,
Mhm.
putting something to music, editing, and then like feeling that magic between
Right.
like the synthesis of all the elements coming together. And and yeah, that basically just evolved into like doing YouTube, um, which was I was just having fun with. I mean, of course, I like took it seriously too while I was in college, and wanted to be a YouTuber. Like I wanted to be like a influencer.
Mhm.
Um, and I still, I mean, I haven't made a video in a while actually. Like for artistic purposes, I've made like some reels to promote Satva and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but I definitely, it's something that I will come back to and revisit as time goes on when I have more time too.
Mhm.
Really good artistic outlet for me.
Yeah. I was about to say I'd love to see like a day in the life of Jack Sweeney with your style of editing. That'd be really interesting, really cool.
Yeah, day in the life could be an interesting one.
I mean,
But
it's everyone wants to see a day in the life of this person and this person today, right?
right, yeah, true,
Mhm.
true,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh,
Your other artistic expressions, poems. I know you're creating a book, right?
yep,
Can you talk to me about that?
yes. I've been writing. Um, well, the poems that are in this book have basically I've been writing them since like 20 2019.
Mhm.
Um,
Wow.
and I'm basically just taking my time with it. I'm not
Mhm.
in a rush to to publish it.
Mhm.
Um, because I want to make sure each one of these is gonna stand the test of time, or at least like I want to reread it,
Mm.
you know, and make sure they still all hit. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's just been another like really awesome creative outlet.
Mhm.
Um, something about like the immediacy of just like writing a poem and how simple it is. You don't really need anything else but a pen and paper, and you can just take these ideas called words and just mash them together and make
Mhm.
this like painting of words is really, really fun.
Yeah, I was about to ask, like, what do you feel when you're creating a poem? Where do you go?
Bro, bro,
Mhm.
I will feel this like it's like this energy like in the back of my head.
Mhm.
I feel this like energy potential building, and it's like this spark potential.
Mm.
And I'm literally like, oh, there's something like that wants to like come out,
Mm.
you know? And I will just literally like when I'm writing a poem, I will literally have just zero conscious filter and just
Mm.
say anything, like write anything.
Wow.
It's like the one place where I just completely just don't give a singular fuck and will just say whatever wants to be said.
Mhm.
And it's really freeing, but it's almost too like you're just in this sort of flow state where you're not really like the goal is to like just get out of the way
Mhm.
and just let whatever this energetic thing needs to do, just let it do what it needs to do. And just sort of like guide it down this path,
Okay.
you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
channel it into a actual form. Um, so a lot of the time I feel like I'm not even doing anything. It's just like
Wow.
letting this thing just move into the world.
It's like you went to sleep and you woke up and the poem's there.
Pretty
A little
much.
bit. Yeah, I love that. When you feel that energy behind your head, is that before writing or is that when you have the pen and paper?
That's like right before. I will like feel it.
Mhm.
It's almost like a pressure,
Mm.
like a it doesn't not like a physical pressure, but it's like a little bit of weight and usually like a lot of excitement.
Mm.
Usually I'm like listening to some like cool music or something.
You're
And
getting in the zone. I love it.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
and I just let my mind go crazy
Mm.
and see what comes out.
Have you ever interrupted this feeling? Does that make sense?
Um, I think I know you mean like accidentally getting in the way. Sometimes,
Maybe you opened Instagram and
Oh. Usually, no. Like when it wants to come, it's like you're throwing up or something.
Wow.
It's like there's nothing that's gonna like come in between, you know,
You and that.
necessarily, unless I'm like in. I've been writing like in the car. I'll be like in the car typing like looking. I'm like trying to like get this out before I
Yeah.
like crash.
Wow.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter when it comes out. Really, it's like it's just 100% presence.
And you've always like, how did you start to create poems? Why did you ever grab a pen and paper?
That's an interesting question. I don't really
Like,
know.
did you ever have that feeling of energy and you were like, maybe it's a poem? Like maybe you're feeling words or something.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, I think like I had some early childhood experiences at like maybe second or third grade
Wow.
of like doing like poetry readings like for class, you know.
Hmm.
I still have one of these actually that I wrote for my mom.
Hmm.
It's like fire. I was like I was probably like I don't know, 8 or 9 or something. And
Hmm.
I think that kind of stuck with me. I've always been like a big kind of like reader. At least when I was young, I used to read a lot, and but I didn't like really understand that you could just write a poem or like the way that a poem could come out. A lot of people think like, oh, it has to be Shakespeare. It has to be like A B B. You know, really like droning
Hmm.
and like you have to rhyme and whatever and you have to use cool words and stuff and metaphors, but um for me at least um I kind of like when people just like Allen Ginsberg, for example. Do you know him?
I don't know. A single post.
When I read well, he like he has his own style for sure, but it when I read his poetry, it sort of opened another world for me in terms of what a poem could be. I like the beats in general of like the 60s, like 50s, 60s, that whole movement, um, which is basically inspired by like jazz, like
Hmm.
the spontaneity of jazz and the rhythms of jazz. That you could do that with words was fascinating to me and like
Wow.
new paradigm that when I read him, I was like, this is dope. Like I did not understand what poetry was
Mm.
before I read like the beats. Um and then after that, like it was almost like you just like there's some pivotal artists in your life like that you'll come across that will influence
Hmm.
you in such a way that it's like before and after,
100%.
you
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
And after that, like after I read like Patti Smith, Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, all the beats, it was
It was
like
a new world.
just like a floodgate was
Yeah.
open. I remember like I had this Google Doc of like pages and pages and pages and pages of just like it was like prose poetry, I guess, like free verse that
Hmm.
was just super like I mean it was pretty bad, not gonna lie, looking back. But I
Hmm.
needed to get all that out
Hmm.
first so that I could like, get to where I needed to
Come
go.
back. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful, dude. What are you trying to take your poetry? This like from with the book.
Um, I I don't think there's a specific place really. I think it's
You're just
just I want it to be in the world for other
mm,
people to read and share. And because it's like some of them are really personal, some are like, like some I'm like scared to publish.
mm,
You know what I
wow.
mean?
Hmm.
And so I just want it to be out in the world so that I can like do the next thing, or like write the next book or whatever I'm gonna do. And I think a lot of them are really cool,
Hmm.
and I want people to read them, even though no one reads anymore. So We'll like see how it goes. I might just like publish them all online or something, or just put them out.
Is there a theme for your poems?
Yeah, so the book is called Split, and it's
Mm,
basically it has a lot of different themes, but a big one is like the internet, this like divide between left and right in America, at least. This like sort of fracturing of the psyche
mm-hmm,
and the self,
mm-hmm,
how we're like scattered, ourselves are scattered across all these different digital domains, um, and like what that sort of does psychologically. Um, and it's almost like a couple of them are like just like qualities of the modern mind. I think like they're so um, a lot of them are quite like uh, not like schizo, but like it's like if you took the internet and like watched it, it's very like TikTok, I guess.
okay.
It's very like hyper, yeah, like hyperactive and but in like a jazzy kind of way. Um, and I think some of those are pretty compelling. I really like those. But I was basically channeling like the internet in a way, because it's influenced my brain a lot.
Mm-hmm,
Um, and so I think it's going to be reflected in like all of the art that we have now, um, which yeah, it already is. But
mm-hmm,
yeah, that was a big. That's probably one of the biggest themes of like my artistic work is like the internet. I think of it as like sort of the modern like metropolis, if you think about it like that. Like modern poetry was like primarily concerned with the metropolis, right?
What does that mean?
Which was like it's like the city essentially.
Okay.
Like the futurists, the early like modern poetry. It was all like informed by like the sharp jagged lines of the city and this like new speed
Mm,
of like the automobile. I think now we're sort of like the internet is our metropolis.
okay.
It's even faster and
Mm-hmm,
even more jagged and even more cutting and
mm-hmm,
interesting and deep, you know? There's so many little nooks and crannies of the internet. It's just fascinating. It's like this giant city in cyberspace that you can just go anywhere instantly, like us talking right now. It's like,
mm-hmm.
we're talking in this metropolis of the internet.
You've always been this kind of like fascinated with the internet.
Yes.
Mm-hmm,
Yes. Since I got my first computer when I was like 12, I think I was just like on Facebook.
mm-hmm,
Um, yeah, that first feeling of like getting onto the information highway, and all of
mm-hmm,
a sudden you're just like finding all this new information. You're like tunneling through
mm-hmm.
this like, network, just finding really interesting, cool information.
Yeah.
Dude, it's the greatest ride of all time. It's fast.
I love that. Your 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 art, uh, like drawing.
Mm,
I
mm.
know one of your pieces is the start of your website, like the first part of your website.
Yeah, yeah.
Really cool website. By the way, I
Thanks.
was I was jump scared yesterday by the SpongeBob. I never expected it. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it gets people. It gets people.
yeah. Wow. What about that? Are you still working with that?
Yes. A lot of these things I'll take like long breaks from and then come back to.
Mm-hmm.
But I love drawing, and I've most recently been into um, geometry and like ratios and harmonics within drawing. So like that one on my website,
Mm.
it's all like golden ratio tuned and sacred geometric patterns, which I think is like a really fascinated, like I'm fascinated by like church architecture and like church windows and
Mhm.
um and like ancient sites and shit. Like
Mhm.
all this sacred geometry that's built into a lot of the old architecture that we have. Um, because there's some really interesting, I guess, like metaphysical properties
Mhm.
of it.
Mhm.
So that's what I've been like um, most recently into. But it's sort of like I went through a phase where I was doing a lot of um, like anatomy kind of. I got just super bored of that, and then I was doing a lot of abstract stuff with like um, what are they called? Pastels,
Mm.
um, and pen and stuff. It's sort of evolved over the years, but right now, like I've literally just been building this business, so I
Mhm.
haven't been drawing as much. I really want to get back to it because it's such an awesome flow state to just be like coloring or drawing. Um,
Well, why are you into geometry? What do you see in it?
I think that I'm into geometry because it is perfect. Like
Mhm.
a circle, for example, is perfect. It's this primordial, fundamental geometric form, like the Platonic solids, for example. They're like these perfect forms that just exist in this dimension, right? And there is no real like subjectivity to them. It's like
Mhm.
math. It's like 2 + 2 = 4. Like 1 + 2 is 3, 3 + 2 is 5, 5 + 3 is 8. Like that's the golden ratio, and it's what it is, and it's all throughout nature too, which is fascinating. And Yeah, I like it. I think mostly because it like pleases my OCD if I write like a if I draw like a like a circle with a compass.
Mhm.
It's really satisfying to just make
Mhm.
that perfect circle. Um, and it's a very simple form of art. It's not like oil painting, for example, or um, collage or something like that. It's literally you're just drawing lines, but
Mhm.
you're creating this resonant pattern. Like I have this yantra here, like by my
Wow.
uh, desk that I look at, and the way that it arranges, like the light hits your cornea,
Mhm.
it structures the light in such an interesting way.
Mm.
It's putting out like this resonant frequency
Mhm.
that I think is actually like it's calming and it's almost like therapeutic.
Mm.
Um, which I think that's like the main value of art is like something beautiful and calming and therapeutic. And so like just to be able to do that with geometry is it's fascinating.
Mhm. Yeah, and our use of the golden ratio and kind of respect towards geometry, it's really old.
Yeah,
Our ancient civilizations, the Mayans, Amazonians, Egyptians, they all
yeah,
had this.
right. They all knew. Yeah, they all knew. Like,
And not only did they know, but they were obsessed. They loved it, right?
yeah,
And it's so interesting how we can take it for granted today. But we're also so struck when we see the picture you just showed me. I was like, whoa, well, that's cool,
yeah,
right? How the
yeah,
colors play with you from the figures.
yeah,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And like, I'll send you a photo of it because what you should do is stare into the center of it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you look away, the after image
You see it everywhere?
is super clear. Um,
Wow.
I don't know why, but the way that it arranges, like you know the circles um, and the triangles within.
Mm.
For some reason, I think it structures like it structures some sort of field or something like within your brain to then like reproject it back out with like
Mm-hmm.
it's like perfect
Mm-hmm.
clarity. And so that's a really fun technique, like meditating with them. But yeah, it's super old
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Like this stuff is from the Vedas, like really, really old. Which
Right.
when it's survived that long, it's pretty lindy, and there's probably something that is worth investigating about it.
Okay.
You know?
That's interesting. Meditating. You just shot that out. I know you're really big into meditation,
Yeah.
right? Can you talk to me about that journey?
Yes. Let's see. So I've been meditating for about like 4 years now, like really consistently, like every single day, like literally every day.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just like 2 minutes, like if I'm sick and I can only do like 30 seconds, I'll just make sure I hit it every single day. And I'm just in this habit of doing it. And I think I just wanted to like give it like a real shot like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I think it was like 3.5 now. And I remember I read this book called Catching the Big Fish by David Lynch, famous
Mm-hmm.
filmmaker. And he was like, transcendental meditation had a huge influence on me and my work, and overall was very beneficial. And I was in film school at the time, and I was like, okay, I could use a little, use a little creative juices, you know? And I remember I just like laid down one day and I just did this mantra and repeated this mantra over and over and over. And I remember like all of a sudden, like I was just in this place where I was really relaxed. There was like a big pressure here in my like
Mm.
gland or whatever when I focused it there and like repeated this mantra. And then I remember just like after 20 minutes, I got up and I just felt, well, my brain was coherent,
Mm-hmm.
which I hadn't felt in a while. Because if
Mm.
you're not meditating, um, and you're just on Instagram, for example, a lot, or social media a lot, or the internet,
Mm.
and you're not getting into flow, like your brain is not in coherence. And I remember just feeling this coherence after meditating, and I was like, holy crap.
Mm.
I remember feeling this a while ago, like in high school, like doing like math homework. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a state of mind where you're literally just so calm, and it's like a flow state. You're not
Mm-hmm.
really thinking about yourself very much. It's just you're calm. You feel literally like nothing could phase you in that
Mm-hmm.
moment. You're literally just, it's the best feeling ever. And so then after that, I was like, all right, I'm going to get on this streak. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
going to see how long I can keep meditating for every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been like 3.5 years now. And I've literally, uh, like, I mean, I love meditating.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this place where you can just be, you don't have to like do anything. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing, there's no, it's like your primordial state where you just sort of are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really nice. Like it's sort of like listening to uh like a really good song, I guess. You're
Mm.
just in that state where you're just chilling, like
Ah.
literally
Mhm.
chilling, you know? And so yeah, I love meditating, but that's kind of the story of how I got into it.
How has that streak been?
It's been great.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me is like, okay, is the streak ever gonna end, or like, am I gonna like just get enlightened already, and then won't have to keep meditating, or like, what
Yeah.
happened because I'm on this streak now, and I basically put myself into this. I put myself into this streak where like, okay, if I don't keep the streak going, then what's gonna happen? I don't even know. Like, would I fucking die, or
Yeah.
something? Um, so the streak has been good, but it's also become a prison
Okay.
in a way where I'm like indebted to the streak and need to keep doing it. At least until I guess I feel like I don't have to anymore.
You think you're gonna stop? You think there's that stop of meditation?
I mean, a lot of like the masters in India, like they don't meditate anymore. Like they don't
But
necessarily
maybe because they're already in that state as like a.
right. You're
Mhm.
meditating all the time, essentially.
Mm.
Um, and so I don't know. Like I don't know. Maybe one day I'll just stop and that'll be it.
Mhm.
I like it. I
Mhm.
like meditating, so
Love
I'll
it.
probably keep doing it.
Can you talk about that concept you just mentioned, which was enlightenment?
What?
I read about it first a couple months ago. I have the book over there with the power of now, and I was so struck by it.
Eckhart
Right?
Tolle? Tolle
Yes.
or yeah,
Mm-hmm.
fire.
Oof. Crazy book.
Yeah, yeah, really good book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, his sort of like idea is that when you're fully present, like that's basically what enlightenment is, if I remember correctly, at least. You're
Mm-hmm.
not essentially projecting your consciousness into the future or the past, and you're just right there.
But isn't
Um,
that meditating as well? Being here, just now.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much. um, it's just training your mind not to become identified with those thoughts of the future, or not fracture your psyche across the dimension of time, right? And
Mm-hmm.
just being whole in the
Mm.
present moment. I guess that's what enlightenment is. But
Okay.
to be honest, man, like I don't think anyone really knows what enlightenment is.
Have you ever felt something close to that concept when you really feel like you're not here?
I've definitely touched some deep samadhi states.
Mm.
Um, my day-to-day life, not yet. Like I'm not living in that state. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not living in this enlightened state yet.
Why do you think um, we don't really know what that is?
Because I don't think our 3D brains can act like we don't have the hardware to understand that experience,
Of course.
and we also can't put infinity into a finite word. And that's how we describe
Oh
things.
shit.
Words. So, like, if you're taking this thing that's bigger than the English language, it's bigger than everything else, and you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
put it into this word, you can't just explain that to someone. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you have to actually experience it or be it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That was really well said.
Yeah.
Um, Coherence. The first time you meditated, you felt that coherence with your brain. Was it with your heart and with your brain, or was it just that peace?
The heart is definitely involved as well.
Can you
And
explain what that is?
it's a it's an air of like openness, I think. We hold a lot of um, energy in our physical body um, that prevents us from feeling things.
Mm,
So, for example, like let's say you see something that reminds you of someone from your past, and
mm,
it brings up a feeling, right?
okay.
But you don't let yourself fully feel that feeling. You sort of block it off with your mind, and you say like, oh, I don't want to think about this. I'm not going to feel this. But it's still within your body, within your energy body, within the history of your cells. And so I personally have experienced a lot of like actually being able to just feel the thing and let it go and like release it.
Okay.
And I think when you get into that state of like allowing yourself to feel your own emotions and then
Mm,
releasing them, that essentially puts you into this heart brain coherence. Um, well, I mean, and you can induce heart brain coherence with like breathing techniques, for
mhm,
example. Um, but yes, it's not just like a mental thing. It's like a holistic thing. Your whole body is essentially in line,
mhm.
and energy is flowing um, through your energetic body without hindrance, essentially.
What is the energetic body?
Um, so the energetic body is essentially comprised of like chi,
Mm-hmm.
uh, or prana,
Mm-hmm.
or the Greeks called it ether. But it's
Life
essentially,
force?
yeah, life force. Yeah, it's essentially like where you place your attention. But I mean, I've I believe we have multiple bodies, like
Okay.
energetic, physical, astral, mental, um, that essentially have different densities. But the energetic body is comprised of like emotional energy,
Mm,
at least in my experience.
mm-hmm.
Um, and you can move it around consciously
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and use it and channel it, which is fun. Like when I was explaining how that like a poem would feel like it would like weigh
Mm-hmm.
down on the back of my head before it would come through. I think it's coming into that layer of body, that mental
Mm,
layer, perhaps, where okay, you become aware of it. Just like a thought will enter your mind from an astral world or a mental plane.
mm-hmm.
It will inhabit your physical brain. So we're constantly pulling these things down from like higher densities of the thought realm or the astral realm.
Mm-hmm.
But your energy body just exists um, in a higher density, um, but it's totally consciously uh, manipulable by you.
Can you teach us how to meditate here?
Yeah, for sure. You just okay. So the first thing that you should know about meditating is that you need to sit with your back straight. Um, like the posture is very important.
Hmm.
Um, because you're literally going to commune with the divine, right? Like you should be, not slouching, not looking like defeated. Like you should literally have some grace, but it's not like a prideful grace. It's like a humble grace, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're humble before the Lord, but
Mm-hmm.
you're a human. Like you should stand with your back straight. Um, and so that's step one is like find a position, a posture that is comfortable for you. Where preferably you can sit for like a longer period of time,
Mm-hmm.
which might require doing some stretching, doing some yoga to be able to sit like cross-legged, for example, for a while. But if you can't do that, you can always like sit in the chair
Yeah.
as long as you don't have a backrest.
Cross-legged is so uncomfortable for me.
Yeah, you got to open up the hips,
Mm-hmm.
those hips. It took me forever to open up my hips, but
Mm.
I got them open enough to where I can sit comfortably. But so yeah, posture, and then I mean, once you have like a solid posture, I like the transcendental style of meditation, which is you just repeat a mantra in your head over and over. I think that can take you really really deep. But I've tried a couple different techniques. Whatever focuses your mind so that the subconscious can like get out what it needs to get out, and
Mm.
have something to focus on, essentially, like a focal point.
Okay.
That's important.
A focal point inside the mind.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So like a word or the breath. Um,
Yeah, I guess the mantra is the focal point, right?
yeah, exactly. The mantra is the focal point. I have tried too, just like not having a focal point and just kind of drifting through,
Mm-hmm.
which is a really interesting experience too. But if I need to like lock in, I'll, do a mantra for 20 minutes. And it literally just realigns your whole field. Um, but so, yeah, I think people don't really need to do more than like 15 or 20 minutes in the morning and at night.
Okay.
That's what I do, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on like how busy I am, or like if I'm sick, or if I have a ton of time and really just want to go deep for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, find a mantra that you like and just repeat it over and over and over and over. It's really nice when you get into it.
I'm gonna give it a try. I don't currently meditate. I love breath work. Every morning there's 20 minutes or so of Wim Hof,
Nice,
and there's something in the afternoon. But I used to do these Joe Dispenza meditations.
nice.
I don't remember. I mean, there's hundreds of them, of course. It's one where immediately when you wake up, you put like 20 minutes of that one, and one just before bed.
Mm,
Uh, where he focuses you on the space between different parts of your body,
right.
right?
Yes.
Whew, right.
Fire.
Incredible. Yeah, I'm gonna give yours a try.
Yeah. Yeah. Give it a shot. It's
Yeah.
nice. I think everyone should find a technique that works for them and then
Mm-hmm.
keep on it.
Mm.
Because people are different and different stuff works for different people. So there's no
Mm-hmm.
one way to meditate.
So we've mentioned, well, you've mentioned God and the divine countless times, right? So if you mind sharing your current understanding of that, and I think that's the third time I asked that question through a conversation. Um, but that specific question I asked because I do feel like the more we connect to that, there is more of an understanding, right?
Right.
So that's why I ask, what's your current understanding?
Right. My current understanding of God. Um, I I think that um, there is nothing that is outside of God. So we essentially all are little fractals of God. Um, and I think that you can't obviously put the infinite into a finite
Mm-hmm.
thing. You get like undefined or whatever. Um, so you can't really define it with words. I think it like sort of has to be experienced, but like a good example of that is like synchronicities.
Mm. I
Certain
just started to read about that. Incredible. Yeah.
certain synchronicities are just so preposterous that you're just like, all right, cool. So I guess this is how it is. Like we're just, and that's the fun part is like being observant enough to like realize like, okay, that was probably the divine talking to me in some weird way.
Mm.
Even any word that you say out of your mouth to me, like that is actually God talking. Um,
Mm.
so that's sort of my like um, ontological or epistemological definition of God, I guess, is that like it's lit. There is no separation between you and God. There's only this idea that like um, you essentially like loved yourself so much that you allowed yourself to forget that you are God.
Okay.
to go experience not being God to learn more about yourself. That I don't think it can be explained without like paradox or uh, some sort of like axiom that just doesn't make sense to our 3D brains, because I don't think our 3D brains are equipped to understand the full divinity of
Picture.
yeah.
Well, that understanding that you have right now, how would you come to understand that?
Good question.
Like I can imagine it wasn't forever like this, right?
No, definitely not. I was raised like, I guess, kind of atheist. Like, I'm Jewish, but we like didn't really celebrate uh Hanukkah or anything. We celebrated like Christmas, but like I'd never even been to church, like
Mm-hmm.
never done anything with like religion at all. So I was sort of like a blank slate in terms of that.
Okay.
And um, I think my sort of understanding of, or at least my current understanding of God, started with like um, with a couple books. One is Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. Do you know that book? It's
I
really
think I have it waiting for me. I don't know. That the name clicked.
really good.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that book's essentially just about Buddhism, but wrapped in a Western uh, like frame. But then I read the Dhammapada, which is like the seminal text of Buddhism, um, and that was really eye opening as well. And then of course, I also read the Bhagavad Gita. That one was really fire. Um, and then what else? Like those were really influential for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The Eastern understanding of God, I think, is more compelling to me than
Mm-hmm.
the Western understanding. Uh, and so, yeah, a lot of just like self exploration, curiosity, and just like realizing that like how could you be separate from a thing that like you're within this thing, right? And there is no real separation. We just create this in our brains, this idea of separation, but we're not actually separate at all. We're all actually just the same thing, created out of you know stardust and atoms and molecules and shit.
Yeah.
Like there,
Why do you think we create the separation?
I think it's fun. I think we got bored as.
Mm. Wow. Okay.
I think we got bored because think about it like this, right? Like let's imagine time doesn't exist in the same way that it does now. Like imagine just imagine just sitting right on a chair in infinity, like forever, and you're just sitting there and it's great, whatever, and you're just in this peak state, whatever. And then you just get bored, bro. Like I think we just literally I mean, we do this every single night, right? Like we go to sleep, right? And you're essentially in this state where you have no there's awareness, right? But there's no consciousness, there's no thoughts. And then we get so bored of that that we just start creating these astral thought forms that are dreams, right? And we have thoughts, and then we then bring those into an actual physical manifestation, and we wake up, you know. Like I think we just kind of got like think about it, bro. It's infinity, bro. So boring, dude. Like you gotta just we want stories, we want action, we want to switch it up, you
Yeah.
know.
Wow. What an interesting what an incredible like visualization. Fuck the word. Uh, I'm not gonna get it out of my mouth, but what an incredible thing to realize. Yeah.
Yeah.
What opened your heart towards those first books? Was it just like curiosity or like
So the first time I felt my heart open was when I was on a bunch of mushrooms in the desert.
hmm,
I was actually with my sister, and bro, we were listening to this song from Kung Fu Panda called Oogway Ascends, bro. Throw this on.
you
It's
listen to that with mushrooms? That's crazy.
Hans Zimmer,
Hmm.
fire. And
Wow.
I remember we had gotten to the desert, right, with like we had a group of friends with us, and we were planning on taking some mushrooms. This was like during COVID, and we uh, we essentially had to climb up this like cliff to get to where we want to like sit and trip. And so we ate these mushrooms at the bottom of the cliff, which in hindsight was not the best like way to go about it. And I remember just eating these mushrooms, and we're walking up this really sketchy path, honestly, to get to the top.
Hmm.
And I just started tripping like really hard. And
Hmm.
my sister was there too. She like hadn't started feeling it yet. So she was like guiding me up this hill because I was like, we're not gonna make it. We need to just chill right here. We could just trip right here. Like it was like we were getting like cliffed out. Like we were trying to like go up, and it got like so like you'd have to like rock climb it. So we had to like go down, back around, up. We went on this whole journey, bro. And then we get to the top, and I like sit down, and my brother, we made this playlist, bro. We made this trip playlist. So we put all our like favorite music on this one playlist. And I remember like this song just comes on, and it like took me back to Kung Fu Panda, bro. And I'm watching Oogway just like disappear into the blossoms, and I'm like, oh my gosh! And I'm looking out over the vista, and I just see this like river down below, and it was just so beautiful.
Hmm.
I remember just like I could not stop myself from like just welling up,
Hmm.
just like crying at
Wow.
this like the beauty of this world.
Hmm.
And I hadn't felt like my heart open up like that, I don't think ever really. Um, and it was one of those like experiences that's like just life changing kind of, because that was like the start of like a long process of like letting go of a lot of the emotions that like have built up over time
Hmm.
in my body, and just like becoming lighter really, um letting go of like a lot of the heaviness. But that was like the first time that I really felt my heart,
Yeah.
yeah,
Beautiful.
just opened up.
I'm so I don't want to try one yet, but I'm so curious into psychedelics right now. Like
Yeah,
I'm so in awe.
they're really really powerful teachers, I think.
Hmm.
um, and of course, I mean, you have to be in the right place with the right people, but
Hmm.
they can really really help sort of uh, they can help you like adjust to this world, I think.
Wow.
Sure.
Okay. So going just a little bit off topic. You have this post that I think this was the post where I started to follow you from. I don't know if it was this or your vortex breath.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it's transmuting lust into endless energy, right?
Okay, the thread.
Why did you write that in the first place?
I think a lot of people struggle with sexual energy and just sex in general.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know I do. It's like literally so distracting sometimes, and it's like you have like a bucking bronco, or like some sort of like, yeah, you have like some like a Ferrari
Mm-hmm.
of energy in your body that is your sexual energy. And it can either like destroy you, or you can like steer it in such a way to direct it like so that it's not fucking hitting the guardrails so much, and like really like start to steer it to serve humanity better, essentially. And like I'm still really learning how to do this, and it's not easy whatsoever. But I've learned like a couple of techniques that like actually are pretty helpful with regards to like actually transmuting your sexual energy into like productive energy.
Mhm.
Um, I read this book called Taoist Secrets of Love, which was
Mm.
really, really
It's with
good.
like the two people sitting down facing each other, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, and so I just wrote that thread basically just to give people like a practical tool to use when they're like really just being distracted by their lust, essentially, and want to transmute it. Um, but yeah, did you like that one?
I fucking loved it. And actually, so I was confused whether I got introduced to your account through this post or the other one because I already followed your brother at that time and he was releasing posts related to that content. And it was specifically that big post about porn that, I mean, when he released that, I immediately messaged him to get him on the show.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so when I read your post, I was like, I mean, I was 17, dude.
Right.
That energy is huge. It's
Yes.
big,
Yeah.
and it is. I mean, it's incredible to read shit like this.
Yeah. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I
How do we transmute?
right. Um, it starts with like awareness,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. So becoming aware of where your attention is within your body,
Mm.
which is typically in like the root chakra when you're really lustful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and essentially, what you can do is move your attention to different parts of your body, and energy will flow there. It's like the Dispenza sort of principle where he says like where your attention goes, your energy will flow.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially you can just move the energy really gently from your lower centers to your higher centers. And so I mean the way that I outlined it in this thread is like you'll exhale completely, focusing on your root chakra, and then inhale super slow, like a 10 count to um, your head, essentially, and focus on your pineal center or your crown, and the energy will actually move. You'll feel it move, and it's like a pressure almost. It will move to your head, and then what you want to do ideally is like move it back down to store it within your abdomen. They call it the cauldron
Okay.
in Taoism, and that's where you can store a lot of that energy. Because you don't necessarily want to leave it in your head. It can be like dangerous, but but yeah, it's a really gentle technique just to like move some energy in the body. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like yoga and working out is
Mm.
obviously like another way to get excess energy out of the body. What I found is like I used to struggle with having not enough energy, right?
Okay.
I was in like high school, and now I have like too much energy. So I
Yeah.
have to like learn how to channel it into productive things like working out, meditating, working, etc., and not like destructive things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, energy control, life force control is very important to learn, I think. But you're 17, dude. You're gonna be a master, bro.
Yeah, I've heard about this book. I think over 30 times now, and I haven't bought the book, so I quickly searched it because I think this was the final get that shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I have a
yeah.
PDF. I have a I have a PDF if you want it.
Okay. Perfect.
I remember when I read this book, I was like fascinated by it, and I finished it in like 2 or 3 days. It was like
Wow.
one of those for me at least.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's really esoteric shit. Like they
Mm-hmm.
used to only teach this to like kings and emperors because the energy is so strong that when you harness it, you can really use it for good,
Mm-hmm.
um, or evil, of course. But but yeah, it's a really powerful energy.
So that book was your introduction into this topic of kind of being able to move that energy, right?
Um, I actually read The Way of the Superior Man before, David Data,
Mm-hmm.
which was like a good intro into it. And then after that, I read Taoist Secrets.
Okay.
I think like every single man should read these two books because they are so
Mm-hmm.
good. Um, and I would probably read them in that order, to be honest, because a lot of the stuff that David touches on is applicable in Taoist Secrets and vice versa. But it's more of like a primer, I would say. It's less technical and more like theoretical. But
Mm-hmm.
Taoist Secrets is like it's like a manual.
Mm-hmm. Mm. I'm gonna check them out. I've heard about these two books more than 1,000 times. Yeah.
Yeah, read these two books and you're gonna be in, like doing really well, bro.
Jack, what do you value most out of yourself?
um, I I think it sounds like corny, but just like giving it my all, giving it 100%. Like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like whenever I'm leaving potential on the table, I can't live with myself. I feel like shit. Um,
Mm.
but when I'm like living on the edge, I'm like working at like my max capacity, I feel so much more alive. Um, and so I think finding ways to to hone your edge,
Mm.
I think that's sort of what I've been valuing most recently. Um, and yeah, I think at least because we're so young, like taking risks and learning. Um, but I think really, like, I mean, the thing that I've always valued the most is like freedom,
Mm.
um, and that's something that there's different types. Of course, there's like the freedom to go wherever you want, the freedom to do whatever you want,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also freedom from mind, freedom from your desires, um, which I think is honestly a more challenging thing to pursue
Okay.
than anything in the world. Essentially, like conquering your lust, for example, is one of the hardest things you could try to do.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think like um, that pursuit of self mastery, I think, and freedom in that sense. Um, I think that's what's most interesting to me, at least what I
Love
value.
that. And I think this last question might relate to that answer. But what brings you most joy in life?
Oh man, probably just having like a good conversation with my brother, my friends, just
Mm-hmm.
hanging out, going on a nice long walk by myself, and making art, writing poetry, building things. Building things is so fun, dude. Uh, and good music, of course, good music. I couldn't live without it. Um, yeah, yeah, I think that's what's the most fun for me.
Love it. Jack, thank you for sharing. Thank you for your time, and thank you for this conversation. That was really cool. Really cool.
Of course. Much love, many blessings.
Thank you. You too. Definitely when I have my real life like my in-person studio, I'd love to have a round two.
Dude, yes. I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in. Come to Austin, man. Come to
Oh,
Austin.
100%. Oh, dude. I've I've been wanting to go to Austin for like the past 2 years now.
Dude, just pull up. You can sleep on our we don't actually have a couch yet. I was gonna say our couch, but we don't.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you, Jack.
We'll get
Again.
a couch. Yeah, of course, bro. Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.